Oh, Ellery, Nicky.
Anything new on the Moose case, Inspector?
Have you heard from Judge Lamson yet or the others, Dad?
Ought to hear any minute now. He'll only agree to testify against that slippery mobster. Yes?
Fanny Wicker's here, Inspector.
Moose's mouthpiece. Send the counselor in. Something tells me this is good news. Ah, Miss Wicker. Well, has that smart legal brain of yours looked over all the angles of the corner you people are in?
You win, Inspector.
Ah.
We'll cooperate with the DA, give what evidence we can against Musso, provided we're protected and the DA makes the deal.
That's very smart.
Look at the inspector's face, Ellery. He looks positively blissful.
There's something wrong, Nicky. Something wrong.
Oh, glad you see it that way, Miss Wicker. You're here as spokesman for the whole group?
All except Judge Lamson. His Honor is going to fight, Inspector.
That's the worst decision His Honor ever made. Well. So the Moose is going down for the count at last. Out on bail, is he? Not for long. Excuse me. Yes?
Inspector, Lily.
Lily, I've been combing the city for you. Where are you?
Central Park. Listen, Inspector.
Central Park. What are you doing in Central Park? Sharing nuts with the
Now,
squirrels?
listen, Inspector. It's about the Moose.
The Moose? What's about the Moose?
A park cop just found him under a bush with a bullet in his brain.
Look at that crowd of reporters, Ellery.
What, Nicky?
Ellery Queen, what's the matter with you?
Nothing, Nicky, nothing. It's just that I can't get it out of my mind.
Just what out of your mind? Oh, your imagination again. Meanwhile, that racketeer is lying here in the park murdered.
Yes. Oh, Dad. Well?
Moose got it in the brain, Ellery. He rounded up his gang, but they're deaf, dumb, and blind.
What was Musso doing in Central Park, I wonder?
Obviously, Nicky, he had an appointment with his murderer. You see here? Body's lying behind a bush in this clump of trees, and no signs of its being dragged. They were arguing here. Oh, Sergeant, did you find the gun?
Yeah, Maestro. It's the Moose's own rod. One chamber's empty.
They struggled over Moose's gun, Ellery, and the other gentleman won.
He's no gentleman.
Dad, how long's the Moose been lying here dead?
Doc Prouty says he was bumped off sometime today.
He didn't die right away, so Doc says there's no telling exactly how long he lingered.
Could have been murdered any time this morning or early afternoon. Rat it. Have to check alibis.
Dad, look at this.
What, son?
I just found it under the body. This hollow cigarette with the Moose monogram on it.
A hollow one? Like the one we got at headquarters?
Isn't there anything in it, Ellery?
No, it's empty. Dad, are you sure the cigarette with the document is safe at Center Street? This looks like the identical casing.
It can't be, Ellery. I locked the evidence up myself.
Just the same, Dad. Let's go back to headquarters and check up. Hurry, Dad. Hurry.
I suppose Musso could have had two.
There. Didn't I tell you, Ellery? Here's the Moose's dummy cigarette, just as I left it in the safe.
Let's see it, Dad. Dad, this isn't a dummy.
It's a real cigarette?
Tobacco, clear through.
My evidence. But I locked the dummy monogram cigarette in my safe 2 days ago, son.
You only thought it was the dummy, Dad. The switch must have been made before you locked this cigarette in your safe.
One of those crooks substituted a real Moose cigarette for the hollow one in your office 2 days ago, Inspector.
Exactly, Dad. After showing the document to those people in your office, you replaced it in the hollow dummy and put the dummy on your desk. Remember?
Oh, yes.
They all kept wandering around the office.
Yes. Would have taken only a second to make the switch of cigarettes. Say, I know when the switch was made. When the rat screamed that somebody was going to shoot him.
Right, Dad. And one of them came prepared to make the exchange.
But which one?
They all had cigarettes with them, Sergeant. The judge smoked incessantly. So did Miss Wicker, Mr. Ernie. We know Boyne had cigarettes. His cigarette case was pierced by that rifle bullet.
So any of them could have made the switch 2 days ago.
But how did the stolen one get under Musso's body in Central Park, Ellery?
The thief must have brought it with him today to his appointment with his victim.
Sure.
Well, I don't understand why he knocked the Moose off, Maestro.
It's not hard to reconstruct, Sergeant. The thief, in possession of the vital evidence, wanted money from Musso. Money in return for not handing that evidence back to the police.
Probably intended to milk them all dry, one after the other, and started with the racketeer.
Yeah, and then figured he'd destroy the evidence.
All right. So whoever stole that dummy cigarette in my office the other day is the killer of Musso.
But who?
Looks like a tough one to me, Ellery.
Tough? I don't think so, Dad.
Now, Ellery, don't tell me you know...
Yes, Nicky. I know who stole the dummy cigarette and murdered the moose. And there, ladies and gentlemen, you have the mystery, and I hope a solution as well. Nicky, will you be good enough to introduce our guest armchair detectives for this evening?
Well, Ellery, our first guest tonight is Ann Corio, glamorous stage and screen star who is currently making a record-breaking tour of vaudeville theaters from coast to coast. Miss Corio returns to Hollywood soon for her next film, Sarong Girl. Our second guest is Alfred D. McKelvey, prominent Eastern manufacturer and amateur radio detective. You know, Ellery, Mr. McKelvey's hobby is beating fictional radio detectives to the solution, so you'd better watch out. All right, Ellery?
Thank you, Nicky. Miss Corio, who is the criminal?
Well, rather difficult, but I think the rat stole the cigarette that he has been living in terror of Musso, and he did it to bribe him.
Have you any clues?
No, except that when the gun was shut off, he seemed to know just what was happening, and he made quite sure that the bullet hit Byrne and not himself. And I think that was all set up so that he could switch the cigarette.
Thank you, Miss Corio. Mr. McKelvey, who do you think is the criminal?
Well, I've missed some easier guesses than this, so I'll probably miss this. But I guess that Phil Barn did it because of the fact that he showed up in the office opposite the sharpshooter with a vest on so that if there was any poor shooting, he was one fellow that wasn't going to be hit. He also happened to have a cigarette case in his pocket, so he could have been the man to make the exchange in the park. And being a politician, he probably knew his way out in the final analysis.
All right.
Well, thank you, Miss Corio and Mr. McKelvey. You'll know in just a moment how successful you were as armchair detectives. But first, here's Ernest Chappell, a very reasonable man indeed.
Certainly I'm reasonable, Ellery. For instance, when I tell you folks to get 2 bottles of Bromo Seltzer, one to keep at home, the other where you work, I have 2 mighty good reasons. Firstly, you never know when a common sick headache will affect you, but you can depend on Bromo Seltzer to help you feel better fast. For Bromo Seltzer fights headache 3 ways. Acts on head, nerves, and stomach. You get effective relief. Quickly feel more like your old self again. Reason number 2 for buying 2 bottles? Right now, there's a wonderful special on Bromo Seltzer. The regular large 60-cent size bottle for only 39 cents. Now, that means you save 20% or more. But remember, this offer is strictly limited, both to time and quantity. So act at once.
Well, tell us, son. Was it Judge Lamson?
Or that mouthpiece and skirts, Fanny Wicker?
That lisping little appraiser, Ernie.
No. The thief of the evidence, and therefore the killer of Musso, was Phil Boyne.
Boyne, that politician?
The one that got hit by the rifle bullet by mistake?
But how do you know it was Boyne, Ellery?
The clue in this case is psychological, but it's as incontestable as a fingerprint. Consider the situation in your office, Dad, 2 days ago. Musso, or one of his henchmen, in trying to kill the singing rat, fired a shot that struck Phil Boyne by mistake. How did Boyne react?
Like an old lady. Got his start.
Yes, Boyne was so shocked by his narrow escape from death, so unnerved, that he blubbered like a scared child. Yet when, at the height of excitement, I offered him a cigarette, he refused it.
That's right. He did.
The judge, the rat, Counselor Wicker, Ernie, even you, Dad, and Nicky, were all so shaken by the murderous attack that you gratefully accepted the cigarette to soothe your nerves. Yet Boyne, the man most immediately involved, the man who had actually been struck by the bullet, although unhurt, the man who threw a fit of hysterics, Boyne refused to smoke. Conclusion? Phil Boyne is not a smoking man. Phil Boyne doesn't smoke at all. If he were a smoker, even a light smoker, he would have grabbed at a cigarette in his condition.
But, Ellery, if Boyne isn't a smoker, why does he carry a cigarette case around with him? He did that day. You said yourself it was pierced by the rifle bullet.
Yes, Nicky. Why did Boyne, a non-smoker, carry a cigarette case? Since it wasn't because he smoked, then that case and the cigarettes in it must have served an entirely different purpose.
I see it now, son.
Yes, Dad. We know one of Mousseau's specially monogrammed cigarettes was substituted for the hollow one with the evidence in it. Therefore, the thief must have come to your office with a cigarette he'd stolen from Mousseau in advance. In other words, the thief came prepared to make a switch of cigarettes if the opportunity arose. And which of the four suspects did come prepared? Obviously, the man who carried a cigarette case but didn't smoke. Dad, if you'll nab Phil Boyne right away, there's a good chance he still has that document with its precious evidence on him. And there, ladies and gentlemen, you have the solution to the mystery. I want to thank Miss Ann Corio and Mr. Alfred McKelvey for appearing as guest armchair detectives this evening. And we have for both Miss Corio and Mr. McKelvey a personal gift from Bromo Seltzer. Also, an autographed copy of my latest mystery anthology, Sporting Blood, and a subscription to Ellery Queen's Mystery Magazine.
Ellery, I'm a man who comes to the point.
Chappie, so am I. I know what that point you're going to make, and my answer is you'll have to wait a minute to hear what next week's story is about.
Well, it so happens that I can fill that minute with some mighty important information. You can take it straight from our educated Bromo Seltzer trained friends. The time to try Bromo Seltzer is right now. Listen.
Save money. Buy now. Bromo Seltzer, Bromo Seltzer, Bromo Seltzer, Bromo Seltzer, Bromo Seltzer.
Yes, buy Bromo Seltzer now, and you'll save money. 20% or more. For right now, your druggist is offering the large 60-cent size bottle of Bromo Seltzer for only 39 cents. This offer is good for a limited time only, so act at once. Remember, Bromo Seltzer fights headache 3 ways. These 3 ways.
Quick relief from headache pain. Fast help for jumpy nerves. Quick help for upset stomach.
So don't be satisfied with anything that does less for you than Bromo Seltzer. Use it only as directed on the label. For frequent or persistent headache, see your doctor. For quick, effective relief from common sick headache, get tried and true Bromo Seltzer. And be sure to ask for the large 60-cent size bottle, now selling at the special low price of only 39 cents.
Save money. Buy now. Bromo Seltzer, Bromo Seltzer, Bromo Seltzer, Bromo Seltzer.
All right, Sherlock Holmes, come on. What's on tap for next week?
Funny you should call me that, Chappie.
How so?
Well, because next week I'm going to tell about a case I had which will remind you of one that baffled the great Sherlock himself. It's about a man who goes into his house for an umbrella and disappears. I call my case The Adventure of Mr. Short and Mr. Long. Be sure to listen next Thursday at this same time.
And don't forget the other great Bromo Seltzer show, friends, Vox Pop, the show that travels America. Next Monday, Vox Pop travels to Bowling Field in Washington. Fox Johnson and Warren Hull will interview men of our Army Air Force. Consult your local paper for the time and station. Music for The Adventures of Ellery Queen is by Charles Paul.